Welcome everybody. Welcome to DADAcation. Here in this episode, we have life coach Gabby, and we're gonna have a great episode. Stay tuned. So Gabby, how you doing today?
I'm fantastic.
Thank you.
Loving the East Coast.
Love the East Coast.
Mm.
Oh yeah, that's right. You're from the West Coast. Okay, you need to get used to the East Coast because this is where things happen.
I see. I'm about to make my way out this way.
Okay, so you heard it here first. She's making her way out to the East Coast.
Yes, this is actually here first. I'm actually officially have decided
Really?
to move my business to
Wow.
DC, Virginia area.
Wow. Speaking about business, can you let the people know exactly what you do?
I am a licensed massage therapist, medical massage therapist, and self-care coach.
All right. Now with DADAcation, can you? We're gonna focus more on the self-care coach because I think that's one thing I want to implement in DADAcation, and that's one thing that you have been helping me with in DADAcation. So can you give us a little bit more about the background of the self-life coach?
I came across it within my line of work when I started seeing more and more people, especially Black men, who were like not getting what they needed because they couldn't get past wherever they were. So what I found was if you just kind of opened up with them and gave them a safe space and kind of talked them through the things that they needed to do to take care of themselves and make it okay for them to take care of themselves, then they were really open to it. So when DADAcations came along and it was like helping fathers wanting to be a part of their homes, wanting to be a part of their children's lives, like these are a huge part of the demographic that I see as men struggle to be fathers.
Let's bring it back a little bit because I actually want to let the people know how we met. And that's very important. I think I discussed it in the live already, but we actually met at a conference in Vegas, and you were actually about to leave.
Yes.
And then I seen you on the table with someone else, and I was like, "Hey, do you have time for one more?" And he was like, "No, like unfortunately, you got to book me out." And I was staying for an extra day, thank God. Then you scheduled me in for the next day, and then we met, and then I got a chance to be on your table, and then she started asking me while she's doing the massage. She started asking me a lot of questions, like, and I was just like, why is this lady asking me all these questions? Like, I couldn't understand, like, but then I actually took the time to think, and I actually, like, all the questions started leading to another, and it started making sense, and then that's when you deeply told me exactly what you do, and you made me stem down exactly what I had to do. Then that's when I told you about the DADAcation. Then we got into more deep conversation. And then I don't know, but the way God works is wonderful.
I know, right?
Like,
divine
wonderful,
timing.
Perfect timing. And I actually want to extend that that thank you to you once again.
Oh, you're very welcome. I love to see it blossom and come into fruition.
Absolutely. Like,
I don't ever really get to see the after effects of it. Like, I just have faith that I know that what I do works. And I don't always get to see what you guys do once you kind of like go off into the world with this newfound idea of yourselves.
Right. And I do appreciate the the checkups that you give me. Like, I'll get this random call from Gabby, and then it's just like a checkup, like,
Yeah,
how was your
seeing how
day?
you're
What's
doing.
going on? And I'm like, and then you actually get me to talk, and I'm just like, wow, I didn't know that I was holding all of what I was going through within, whether it be the week, the day.
And that's
It's
a part
like,
of the safe space, is that you guys walk through life holding on to literally everything. And then when it comes to things that are serious, things that you're not supposed to hold on to because they'll stifle you as people, you guys will hold on to it, you'll swallow it and bury it and keep moving forward, and then wondering why your load is so heavy.
wow, that's deep. Also, too, I'm saying it here first, but on Sunday, I kind of want the topic because we're gonna have a licensed therapist, Ashley. She was actually on one of our episodes, but I want to talk about Men's Mental Health Month because it's being surpassed. Nobody's looking at it.
Yeah.
And November is actually that month. And we're starting to see it more on like ESPN. ESPN just did like a segment on it and stuff like that. But it's very important. Like like you already explained, you know, what you do around the life coach and what you do it for, who you do it for. Why, like, what's another reason why men's mental health is important to you? Why is it important?
Because we need you guys. We need you guys to be leaders. We need you guys to be secure so we can be secure. We need you guys to be like your best selves, at least even up to a certain point, so we know where your faults are so we can help move you forward. Because we don't know if you're continually covering it up. When it comes to men just on their own, it will do the world good to see you guys just stop being weighed down by the things that are thrown at you. And I understand that through life, that's just what you guys get, is just here, take this, here, swallow this, here, have this. And at some point in time, you just get tired and you're like, okay, just this is what my place is now. And that's not true. That's
Right.
not true. You're allowed to have a space. You're allowed to have a say. You're allowed to have your time. You're allowed to do the things that make you happy and not at the expense of others.
This gets so deep. So
How deep we trying to get, sir?
Look, so what made you, like, especially with your background and everything, what made you like focus on men? Like we're getting, like, we had, like you said a little bit in the beginning, but what makes you deeply appreciate the men side? Like, because there's female side and there's always females, you know, backing up female for equality, but what's making you do the real equality, like man female?
Because I think men get overlooked. And I think that even with some of my experiences, that it was those overlooked things with some of like the men that I've dated, raising sons and things of that nature, that those things that get overlooked tend to be those things that you lash out on. I recall my brother growing up, like having these restrictions of how he could walk out into the world because of how he would be perceived, kind of thing. I've seen my dad pulled over like as a kid because he drove a nice car. And it was like he never talked about, and my brother never talked about those things that bothered them. It was just their way of life. So once we started to talk about it, it was like, wow, I had no idea of the depths of how much this bothered you. I had no idea how much this shaped your identity. And then when I started looking into some of my own experiences through like abusive relationships, now it doesn't give them the excuse, but I understood that these men were missing pieces of themselves that either people weren't listening to, people were overlooking, people didn't care about, or even just things that they didn't say because they felt they didn't feel safe to do it. And then I raised my sons, and it's like, I don't ever want you to feel that way. I don't ever want you to feel like you can't walk through the world being unapologetically yourself.
Wow. You mentioned something about your brother, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was he your youngest brother or your oldest brother?
He's the older brother.
Okay, and that's interesting because as a younger sister, you looked up to your brother in a way, but you kind of protected him more.
We were protective differently. It wasn't until I became an adult when I understood what that meant. Like the place came from wanting to keep him safe. You don't want to look like this so police don't stop you. You don't want to act this way so that way white people can respect you. And realistically, as I got older, it translated into you can't be this because of somebody else's comfortability. And my brother wasn't a troublemaker. My brother was a very smart kid. He was a very athletic and involved kid. So for you to tell him that he has to change pieces of himself to appease the world, like I can't imagine the message that he got behind it.
Right. Is there anything that you've seen that may have affected him, like, you know, being down that?
So it's funny, recently over the last couple of years, my brother and I had just kind of leveled where even he was like telling me he was going through stages like in and out of depression, like deep depression, like certain things were like hindering him from dating. Certain things were just hard for him to focus. Like when he got to college, he never really went into depth as to what those things were. But I could imagine that if someone told you to stop being yourself at a young age, by the time you were at an age to find yourself, you don't even have a foundation to walk with.
Wow. And it's crazy because now you're saying that he opened up more to you at this stage,
Yeah.
just a couple years, and so you can tell all those back years of levels of things that he's been holding inside of him, and that's how do you see the men having that outburst because they're holding on to?
Yeah, and then something just makes them boil over, and nobody ever tries to catch when they start to boil. No one ever starts to catch when they're not okay. And if somebody, I would imagine, even with my ex-husband or with my brother or any men that I know who have found themselves in bad situations, if somebody had been like, are you okay? Let's talk about it. Or a lot of times you guys will go, I'm fine. But your triggers and your actions obviously speak otherwise. So we're going to get in this car and we're going to go somewhere. You may not realize that I'm going to pick your brain a little bit to decompress you, but nobody ever thinks about picking someone's brain enough to decompress. Suicide amongst men, especially black men, is tremendously high.
Yeah.
But I don't care what anybody says, there's always signs.
Right.
There's always that isolation. There's always that everything is okay. There's always that that state where somebody should have just, instead of saying, you got this, probably should have just hugged somebody. Let them cry. I've seen people where you just give them a hug and they just cry. They just crumble.
Yeah, I see that all the time. I forget his name. He's like I forget his name. He's on Instagram a lot, but he's like the black bald dude, and he does like karate with the kids.
Yes, he's a men's life coach too. Yes.
Jason something, but I like what he does. Like he teaches those kids to fight without emotions.
He teaches them to understand their emotions.
Understand their emotions. And I think at that young age is perfect.
Absolutely.
Because at an adult age, that's like, the suicide thing, thoughts and stuff like that come. But yeah, he's another person that I
love his work. I've been watching his work for years.
Yeah. Like that's just amazing. So when I'm saying that is because it's kind of like what you're talking about with the everything boiling up and adults, how to deal with their emotions and stuff like that. But he's starting it at a young age. But you're doing it now, to help the adults at this age, which is perfect. Even me at one point having being depressed and stuff like that was terrible. But it's sad that I had to do it at
It's never too late to come back.
Right.
It's never too late to say, I'm not okay.
And I think I think a lot of times, I think that's what people need to change. Like, when somebody actually asks you, hey, how are you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I'm fine. Like, I feel like that.
I mean, I'm not going to say that in the grocery store or anything, but it's like, if I sat with you and I notice that you keep staring off into space, or if I notice you're a fidgeter with your fingers, if I know that, you can't stop tapping, if you have these things that are huge cues for anxiety and huge cues about not being comfortable. And if I ask you if you're okay, that it's okay to say no. It's okay to say you need to, even if you don't want to talk to me about it, if you say no, I'll find you some help.
Right. Or if you say no and I don't want to talk about it at the moment, I don't know if that works. Like,
Yes, because it's a boundary. It's probably the first boundary they will ever set. No, I don't want to talk about it. You say, okay, let me know when you're ready to talk about it.
Right. But that's important. And I want to put that out. I actually want to talk about that on the live to bring up for the men's mental health awareness month.
Okay.
That we need to start answering those questions. Like, if there's really something wrong, you don't have to talk about it. Now, the kicker is
some of you guys don't realize something's wrong. You just know that you feel pressure. You feel bottled up. You feel like, you feel like you're about to explode, and no one has taught you. You don't have the resources to learn how to unpack these things. So it's not that you're upset with your job. It's that something happened at your job is just one more thing that's compiled on top of whatever it is that's happening at home, and the relationships that you have to maintain outside of it. So you may not even realize all these things combined are what's causing your boil.
What's crazy is, back to the questions you were asking me in the beginning, it's kind of like the same thing. Like
That's exactly what I was doing.
I was like, what the? But then like it started from like, okay, why is this pain here? To okay, you used to do, you used to lift. Why were you lifting at a young age?
Why were you lifting that heavy
Why
at
are
a
you
young
lifting
age?
heavy at a young age? And I was like, yo.
You're like,
so was it something?
is it that obvious? Yes. For somebody who's looking for it, yes.
Right.
It is that obvious. But now that we're kind of in this space where we can openly talk about it, what I actually was doing was getting you to have a mind-body connection to what you were doing to yourself based off of your mentality.
Wow.
So where you felt uncomfortable because nobody's ever allowed you to unpack, nobody's ever taken an interest. Even if I didn't take the interest that these things you were still inflicting on your personal body from whatever it was you were doing, whatever it was you were upset about, whatever trauma you had been through, these things are a result of it. And you were going to have to learn it one way or another.
Right.
And it was either going, up until that point, it was either going to be through illness or mental breakdown.
Yeah.
Or physical illness.
And then that's when I told you I developed my hernia.
Yeah, but it could have gotten a lot worse.
Yeah.
Things progress into things like constricted blood vessels, which can, you know, they say black men are one of the leaders in like heart problems. Y'all aren't unhealthy. You guys are so constricted on your body that your blood doesn't flow right. You know, things like migraines. You're not prone to these types of things. Your body is just so constricted that your body is now responding and telling you to stop.
Right. Remember one thing you told me to do instead that I wanted to do? Started it.
Yes. Okay.
I started it. I've been like literally. I got a coach. I got a trainer. We've been at it. I'm not gonna see what it is on live yet because I'm trying to keep it.
Yeah,
low key.
let them wait and find out. Let them follow the journey
But,
and then come out like the phoenix, as opposed to doing it out of a state of rage. Doing it because you're mentally stable and in complete control enough to win.
It's been helping me a lot, especially too when my coach speaks with me. Like, you can tell how much it changed me mentally, like from the thoughts of me lifting and doing the other stuff. Like, complete difference.
So what's different?
Another thing too he taught me was, you know, while doing it, back to the Jason thing, to not attach your emotions to it. You're gonna realize it's a whole different game, like you know, and
that now it's a game of strategy and thought versus feeling.
Exactly, literally what he said. So yeah, I did it. I listened. I paid attention. I followed the what is it? I followed the assignment.
You understood the assignment.
I understood the assignment.
That makes me happy. That makes me happy to come clear across the country to even just hear that.
Nah, I'm listening. Look, I follow the lead. Whatever's good for me is put in my life for a reason. And I'm blessed, like I said.
So you have yet to begun to be blessed yet, sir.
Look, more blessings. I'm waiting for. Let's get deep.
Oh man.
Now we can get deep. So, we already know what DADAcation is about. We're giving the dedication to fathers, trying to normalize fatherhood. What was your father like to you in your life?
My dad is the second youngest of 7 that came up in a very different time than I did. My dad joined the military when I was very young. The military did some really adverse effects to his mental stability for a really long time. And it showed over a period of time. But I was dad's girl. I was like his ace. We were like this, even through like his worst days, even through like my worst days. Like the day I had like my first kid in high school, he had like #1 grandpa hat kind of thing. But I will always remember my dad being involved in giving knowledge. Like my dad was really big on educating us in things outside of what was being taught to us. So my dad used to do things like trivia in the car, like Black history trivia in the car kind of thing. Like, I don't know if you remember, like, back in the day when they used to have, like, the long stick trivias and you used to, like, pull the flaps.
Yeah.
We had, like, tons of them, and he knew the answer to every question. So it always drove me to, like, well, how do you know that? Like, how do you know who the mayor of Zimbabwe is? Like, seriously, but he was smart like that. And it always pushed me to be smart. And then as I got older, it was like my dad had this way with people that was like magic. I've never seen anything like it. And like, even still to this day, I've never seen anyone who can just like deal with people in a way where everybody feels safe and comfortable and then like be productive in his work life. But it still didn't stop, corporate America from treating him like the black man that he is. And he always was resilient and came back. And then my dad plays like four or five different instruments.
Wow.
So like, to me, when I look at him, even through all of his faults, he's like amazing. Like he is the standard for me when it comes to what to expect, not out of my men as partners, but just out of the standard of men I need to be around, kind of thing.
Gotcha. Now from that last part, you said your father was kind of like that adjustment to like who you said hang around or to date.
He set the standard.
Can you explain to everyone your last marriage?
Oh Lord.
Don't go into depth.
So which part of that would you like to know?
The
Because
part
that has layers.
the part where you figured like where it went, where how it started, where it went through, and how you overcame.
When I started in my marriage, I met him when I was 17. I want to say he was like 26. We were working at like FAO Schwartz or something. For people who don't know, it's like a really high-end toy store. I sold toys to rich kids.
Wow.
So we kind of met from there, and he was just he loved fun. Like, he was fun, and he was like funny, and just was very much a loner like I was, or reclusive. So we kind of got along very well. He dealt with my children, at least initially, like very well. So when we started to like grow this friendship, it was the first time ever we had probably been able to rely on other people as far as emotionally. As our marriage developed, there were other dynamics that found their way into our marriage, and then that's when the boiling started happening. I was probably about 19, 20, and at that time I couldn't recognize it. That was not something I could identify, because what presented itself was not normal. It wasn't a normal lifestyle. I didn't know anybody who was going through it. I didn't know anyone who could guide me through it. So I had no idea of the struggles that he was having on a mental and emotional basis. I just know that he took them out on me. So when he boiled and the top flew off, and ruined my stove and all kind of stuff. So as we just got older, I decided I wasn't going to deal with it anymore, and it left me very angry and resentful, and in this place of, how do you treat people like that you claim that you love? And it became a part of my healing process to understand that, yes, he is responsible for his actions in every sense of and form, but there was something that broke down in him somewhere that allows him to be that way. So when I started going on this journey, it was like, instead of complaining about what my life was, because it wasn't great at some point in time, how do we acknowledge this problem and be a part of the solution to it?
Wow. And then, so how did you overcome it at the end? Because you said you guys had your differences. There was a lot that went on. And then for those that want to see the story, it is on her page.
Yes, SelfCare Chronicles. The SelfCare Chronicles.
The SelfCare Chronicles. It is a deep story. And then you'll kind of see what we're talking about here. So at that point, how do you think you overcame everything? You said you added like it became part of your healing process and stuff like that. But how did you overcome, like, because that's a big toll on you as well.
Yes. So
Um,
when we talk about overcoming it, one of my big motivations has always been my children. So you can't hide everything from them. But one thing that I thought I was good at, or at least attempted to be good at, or tried to make it a point of doing, was allowing my kids to watch me overcome versus wallow. Um, there are some things that my children will probably live with in terms of my marriage, but it's my job as their mother to show them how to get to the other side versus being upset with them and then creating this toxic environment because we don't know how to get out of what hurt us.
wow.
So it was mostly because of them. But in that journey of healing, it was like, it didn't have to happen. Like our life together wasn't completely bad initially, but something broke down somewhere. There was something that I couldn't see. There was something I didn't understand. So I chose to understand it as opposed to be angry about it.
Right. And then when you both were angry, it would blow up to something else.
Yes.
Oh, the kids would have got even more affected. And it would have just been a big.
So even still now, even when he gets angry, I choose not to be angry. I will always choose my peace.
Somebody has to balance.
Even though I still understand that there's a breakdown, you're not going to continuously suck me down into your place of stuck. When you're ready to come out of that stuck, please let me know. I will help guide you to the other side. But until then, you're not going to suck me back down with you.
And that's what healing's about.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now for the kids. Dedication. We're a lot about the kids. And how they will, grow up the trauma and stuff like that. How did you said you brought a little bit about it, but what are some things or tips and tricks that you can give the people that you do now with your kids to actually not get their mind off of it of what happened, but how to deal with trauma if it occurs or when it occurs?
The best tool I use, believe it or not, is pure honesty. I am as blunt, but yet appropriate for my children. I'm just as blunt with my children as I am with the rest of the world. I allow them to have their moments where you are allowed to be angry. You're allowed to have these feelings. You are allowed to go through these things. But once you have these feelings, it's over. You are allowed to have your moments to retract and feel a certain kind of way. Because if you're not healed from it yet, I'm not going to tell you it's not okay. But now we need to start the habit of continuing to move forward. There's always this undertone of you are your own master of your own space when I speak bluntly to my children. So sometimes what it can sound like is negating their experiences, but realistically, we're just pushing the experiences to their past as opposed to allowing it to be a part of their present.
Wow. Is that something that you implement in like your clients?
Yes.
As well?
Mm-hmm.
So basically you're treating it like an all-in-one, like basically like how can I put this? You're treating it basically as if they, like a higher level of like you're speaking to them like grown adults basically.
Well, I speak to them like people.
Like people. Thank you. Like human beings.
Yes.
Because we're all one. And that's good. What would you give? We'll give you another challenge. What was the youngest, I guess, you started with your kids?
As far as truth?
Yeah.
I always told my kids the truth.
Wow.
There were things that weren't always appropriate to divulge to them, but I always told them the truth.
Wow. And then do you think that's important? Because a lot of people would say, oh, you shouldn't tell the kids, this, or they shouldn't know this.
Well, like I didn't necessarily tell like my youngest child like the circumstances of my divorce and like the things that I went through behind it, but he was aware that things were not okay between me and his father. I didn't talk bad about him. It was just things are not okay, which is why we're in the situation that we're in right now. I would love to just go drop you off, but right now that's not where we are.
Right.
So I always found telling them the truth and ripping off that Band-Aid now was so much better than as that wound grew, bigger than the Band-Aid I put on it.
That's a bar right there. That's a bar. I like that, and I love that analogy. Patching the Band-Aid now before the wound gets bigger and the Band-Aid
because what
can't
does your
fit.
mom always tell you? Just let it breathe, let it get some air. It'll scab up, and then eventually the scab falls off. The scab turns into a scar, and then as you grow up, then you don't even see it.
Another bar. I love it. All right, so another thing. Let's get it a little deeper.
Boy, you keep just digging.
Yeah, this is what DADAcation is about. You guys are gonna hear everything here first. I like to get a healing from every conversation that I have, and get, not purposely get emotional, but
No, it comes with release.
the feeling, the release. What is one thing, I guess I can say, what is one thing that, how can I put this? What is one thing that you, I guess, hate seeing a man go through, and something that you have went through, or seen a father go through that hurts you the most?
I hate when I see people use their children as weapons. I hate when I see people not only use their children as weapons and then alienate their children, but then they hurt their children.
Can you elaborate more?
Like some of those cases that you see where fathers have fought for rights for their children and have called child services and have proven everything beyond their power, and then somehow that child ends up dead.
Wow.
So they had done everything right. They had done everything they were supposed to do, everything they needed to do, and nobody listened. And then now, with him doing right, doing his job, essentially, he was doing his job. And because somebody was either emotionally unstable, did not either want the child was a pawn, the child was something for you to use as a weapon for somebody else, really bothers me.
Is that based on a true story?
That's not my story, but I have seen things like that happen. I have a family member. It hasn't ended in death, but it's something that's happening right now with someone in my life where I'm watching this child literally spiral, and child services has been involved. I have been involved. The family has been involved, and they have every reason to remove the child. And for whatever reason, they don't. Like, the poor thing's been like left at school, like forgotten about. She can sure pick her up early on a Wednesday.
Wow. Yeah, things like that. Yeah, that hurts me because, like you said, that's just one case scenario, but that's probably going around.
But the circumstances are still the same. Just the scenario plays out differently when you talk about using children as pawns. Like, you have these human beings that you literally go half on with another human being, and you will strip that other human being of their ability to provide correctly. So what? You can have extra money every month? Like, I've literally seen men lose their minds or not be able to provide for their next family because somebody is literally financially raping them.
Right.
When you could just work as a team. Everybody doesn't have it all the time. Everybody doesn't have extra money to give all the time. I live in a 2-income household and we still barely make it. So for you to say someone's little $300 a month isn't enough,
right,
while he's losing his mind.
And then also too, what I don't understand is when he's unable to provide and doesn't have it, he goes to jail, and then nobody wins.
Well, and then now there's a whole nother part of that, is that now we're talking about the system is making money off of him. So now you've just created a ward of the state by trying to be, in power? And then in which case, if you still keep going down the same road, you're either going to jail or you're doing something anyway, and now your child becomes a ward of the state, all because of what?
Right. Now everybody's name is in the system. And also too, I think also too with that, um, they give a lot of government assistance, on top of getting that allowance, you may call it, a month. And it just doesn't make, I don't know, like, I understand, like, a child comes from, the mother's womb.
I think I know where you're going with this one, but it's coming from someone who's been in that position. It's interesting because the welfare system was only developed to get you from one place to another. It was never supposed to be a lifestyle. Like maybe through my kids' younger years, I got food stamps, but I very rarely got cash assistance and I got medical insurance. But there was a point that I was trying to get to make more money so I didn't have to deal with you guys.
Right.
Kind of thing. It's not because I was embarrassed, but I'm a fully functioning adult who can function in the world. So when I get to this place where I don't need your help, I'm not looking for any more of your help. But there's some people who will make it their lifestyle, which is crazy to me because when I come up, I kind of like the luxury of when my money comes up. Like I don't want to live like on top of other people all the time.
Also too, another thing too, there's a quote that that goes, the child will eventually find out who was the.
And not just that, but if you live that lifestyle, your children eventually grow up. I mean, do you keep having babies to keep you on the system?
Right. And then another thing too that I understand is that everybody was once a child. And then for me, I'm going to talk about like the women that do this. For me, it's like, how do you do that when you have a brother, like or another male, like whether it be a male cousin, a male brother? How does that look like? I've never understood it.
Do you really want me to answer that honestly?
I want you to answer that, please.
Okay. Because there's no value to relationships. We live in this time where for some reason women feel like it is the man's job to serve them in some way, shape, or form without having to give anything in return. So there is this ideology that is, you're my brother, you're supposed to defend me. You are my father, you are supposed to give me this. You are my man, you are supposed to give me this. But at what time do you say, as a daughter, do you give honor back to your father? Or make sure that you are also there to take care of your father as he gets older? As a sister, at what point do you say, I got you like you got me? And not just when it comes to violence, but like how I had the conversation with my brother. It's like, well, why didn't my response was, well, why didn't you come talk to me? I didn't know I could.
Wow.
You know, as a woman dealing with a man, he's supposed to provide and do these things. But what is it that you give him to strive for to even do that for you? So when you're like, well, you have a brother, how would you feel if it was your brother? Absolutely nothing for a lot of women. Or you're just going to be upset because you feel like, you know, nobody disrespects or plays my brother that way, but you're only here for the violence. You're not even really here for the solution or the healing or even trying to understand that maybe it's your brother.
Wow. And then on the opposite side, on the opposite end, it just looks like there's a bunch of entitlement.
That's exactly what I just in a long way explained. It's an entitlement. It's an entitlement. But I gave that entitlement a face because a lot of people don't see it. It's this give me, pour into me, and then I'm just going to pour this much into you. How many times do you hear men who go way far out of their way for Valentine's Day and Mother's Day and these things, like they're like, all I get is the same sex I have, you know, every day. What thought process do you put into these men to say, hey, I appreciate you. Look, I will be the first one. I buy my man flowers. Seriously,
Wow, first time I've heard that.
I
Like,
do. So sometimes I will just buy things, and sometimes I will just leave him notes. Sometimes
wow.
I just shoot him random text messages saying, "Hey, I know things are rough and this and this and this, but I believe in you. I support you. I love you."
Damn. Woo. Wow.
But how many men actually get that? If you don't think to treat a man that way, you having a brother isn't going to make you think that way.
Mm. Damn. Wow, you got me with that one.
Yeah, I asked you if you wanted to know the answer to that one.
Wow, you got me with that one. That's crazy. And just me even feeling that way from you just saying that just shows a lot of what's missing.
Yeah.
And a lot of men don't get that same type of feeling. And like you just said, everything you just said is just like just looked at to just do one specific thing. And I think I posted it not too long ago. It was just, men just looked at just to, be the supplier.
Yeah, you look at it like a tool.
Like a tool. Gimme. Just keep pouring out. And not looked at anything else of value. And I feel like that's how the court system too has taken and looked at fathers.
So then how do you guys realistically deal with that? How do you say, I'm just going to take on this next thing? Because that's all, like, it amazes me, the strength as black men that you guys have, where you're just like, and we're going. All right, just throw it back there with the rest of it. How do you guys deal with that?
Look, this is where you come in. This is where the life coach comes in.
That's fair, but I mean, up until this point, there's always a soothing mechanism, some kind of controlling of a release, like these things that you guys can control in your world. So how do you go about dealing with all of this negative pushback in the world and still get up and do it every day?
Still get up and do
whatever it is that y'all do that make y'all so magical.
I think one thing that I do,
because I think that when you become a dad too, it like adds on like this superhuman strength.
Yeah. Did you see the post I made? I shared. It was like, dad hugging his daughter, and he has all like the arrows in the back of him bleeding.
Mm-hmm. That one
That's
I
pretty
have
much
seen.
Like what you're saying. Like, how do you get up and continue to, pour while you're getting striked? I think one thing that I do, and this is before I met you, like I said, I used to work out, just work out all the time. I used to use that as a tool, and until I realized after we started, our sessions, still I started to realize like, no, I need to go out to the nature, go out to all of these, like these living nature things, like, you know what I mean? The air, breathe oxygen in, and actually not stress my body for something that, to feel better, but to like just release.
So you guys almost, what it sounds like is that where in most cases you guys actually find a way to almost like self-mutilate to make sure you still bleed.
What, like hide?
No, like the working out. Like that would be where your brain goes like, I hurt my body to take this away. Yes, that is technically by definition self-mutilation.
Gotcha. And what's crazy? A lot of those men that are doing it, they could be so big on the outside, but so weak inside.
I have seen so many people who believe that they were healthy who actually were not. They confused fit with healthy.
Right. And healthy could be so much as going outside for that walk, that, eating right, doing that walk in the nature. But people just be like, no, I'm just going to live. They got the, the big upper body.
Yeah, I got a balanced diet. My body fat is down to 10%,
right.
The usual, but that doesn't make you healthy. That makes you fit.
Right. Because with healthy comes the mental.
Yes, healthy is a full spectrum.
Talk about men's mental health awareness month. This is going to be a big topic on Sunday, by the way. Sunday, November 21st.
Okay.
We got to come with that schedule thing, but that's going to be a big topic. So, to conclude, right, what is one piece of On the life coach side, I'm gonna ask one question. I ask you another question. What is one big piece of advice as a life coach that you can give? Uh, I'm gonna specialize this one for men, just because it's
Hmm.
um, men's mental health awareness month. But what is one good piece of advice for meditation, whatever it is to be healthy, that you can give for not only fathers but men that are hiding things inside or dealing with a lot?
The best health advice I can give is to learn to make real time for yourself. Not that stuff that people tell you where it's like you wake up and you create the schedule and then you do this and you do this and you do this. No, you legitimately have to make time for you. And it has to be something that is only for you. It has to be something that gives you joy. It has to be something where you can go think. It has to be a space only for you, not your wife, not your children. Nobody has to like it. As long as you're being safe and you're not like violating laws, you're not doing anything that you're not supposed to be doing that's humanly wrong, but go find a space that is just for you. My dad, his biggest thing is music.
Mm,
He will literally, when he goes through something, he will go downstairs, he will plug in his headphones to whatever instrument he's going to use, and he will put it on, and we know to leave him alone.
wow. In his man cave?
It's his office.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a cave. It's got like a window and stuff to it. We can see him. But I know when I see him with his headphones on, that's your space, that's your time. If that's what makes you feel good and you're not doing anything destructive or self-destructive, but you're in there creating, go for it.
Wow. That's actually what you like to tell everybody. That's actually one thing that you told me, and I've been doing it. On Sunday,
You go drive, right?
I'll go for a drive. I'm a big driver. Love cars. You know, choose a car, go to the city, go to some not necessarily the city, but I'll get lost sometimes and find like new places.
Hmm.
I'm just like, wow, this is dope. And I look at the sun, look at the
See, and some people would call that
atmosphere.
irresponsible. I find that totally healthy. How else are you going to see the world outside of your space if you don't go get lost in
Wow, another bar.
it? I mean, seriously, I mean, that's the best health advice, like as far as self care I can give you, because nothing else that I will tell you will help. Nothing else will matter if you don't start there, if you don't create this time and space for yourself.
Wow, that's deep.
Mm.
Now, on the father end side, um, what is one piece of advice that you can put out there that for a father that's you know, dealing with the system, or not necessarily the system, but dealing with the other half of the child um, that is fighting like for their lives or fighting to be in their child's life, but they are also going through their own emotions, whether it's depression, suicide, or just having a tough time. What's that?
Stay consistent in your mission, because the mission is always the children. And this was one of those things too that gets overlooked as parents is they always come first. So they come before our emotions, they come before all these things. Even though us having these emotions are completely okay, um, they come first. The love for my child will always outweigh ideas of not existing anymore because life is too hard. When you get stuck in those rough places, there are people and there are resources. There are things where you can go and reach out to decompress before you start making bad decisions. But as long as you stay consistent in what your mission is, you'll get to the other side, even when it seems like the other side is too far away. It will get better. It's just that road is long and hard, and unfortunately it's unpaid because most people give up before they get to the other side.
Another bar. Oh my God. I love that. Like, that was like, that ending part was so deep because I hear, like, I get a lot of fathers that, you know, reach out to me about, like, that issue that, you know, I just said. And then, you know, you saying be consistent and that the road is unpaved because of it not being it being overlooked and other things like that. Like
Well,
it
it's
just
unpaid because you get to this point where it's like, we go, fuck it. You know how many times men will go, fuck it?
yeah.
So yes, you can go down this road, but then there's this point where the footsteps stop because somebody said fuck it before you made it to the other side. So nobody can tell you what that road looks like. It just is like how you get lost in strange places. It's no different.
Right.
It's a strange place you get lost in. The only way you're gonna know where you are is to get to the other side.
Wow. And that's deep because that's just like things in life.
It is just another thing in life. It's just because kids are involved, it makes it heavy. Like our hearts are attached to it. And when our hearts are attached to it, it makes it hard to think because they don't operate on the same plane.
Wow. I guess this is the last question. Because I get this from mothers a lot. It's like a thing of I'm gonna be transparent after,
May
but
as well.
it's like a thing of the mother will always say, you know, that's my child. It came out of my body. So it's about like us, me and the child. How do you deal with that? I think that's the question.
Are we ready for this one?
Yeah, I need to hear this because I hear it a lot. It's very frustrating to hear because I've been hearing it from multiple people as well. And it's just something that is always.
I'm gonna catch a lot of flack for this one, but fuck it. So the moment you say it is mine, that child now becomes a possession and no longer and ceases to be a person. When we identify as mine, that yes, they are yours, you created them, but they are not your property. They are people that you have been anointed with to bring into the world, to give them, to teach them their space in the world. They are not your property. So when you say it's mine, well, then it's just as equally somebody else's as well. That's going half on it. So if there's an issue with half, then maybe you need to reconsider who you give pieces of yourself to. But they're not your property. My children grew up to understand they were people. They understood that once you reached a certain point, that yes, I am your mother, I will be here to love you and guide you, but you are no longer dependent on me. And I gave you the tools that you needed to maneuver through the world until your next step. But the moment you become mine, you become just another piece of my stuff.
Wow.
Another thing I have to take care of, another thing I have to do, another thing. And that's not what they are.
Now, how do you tell someone that? Like,
Just
how do you
like
get that
that.
out of, like...
So okay. So you guys laugh, and then, you know, some people love it about me, some people hate it, but it's, the world is lacking in pure, unadulterated truth. That the more you allow someone to walk around in a mental illness or a facade of the reality that they live in, you now become a part of their problem. To just say, oh, they're just that way. Oh, they can believe whatever they want to believe. No, you are basically telling me your child is a possession. No, they are not. I'm basically taking you at face value what you said to me. That's not a perception. That is a fact. If you talk to an English teacher, that's exactly what she'll say to you.
Wow. Oh man, this is deep.
I told you I'm gonna catch some flack for that one. But I mean, seriously, when to answer your question, that's with anything. When someone is presenting something to you that does not make sense, because facts are facts are facts. If facts don't make sense to you, you might want to go back to school. Just saying. Math is the same in every language. For a reason.
Wow. Yeah, I'm lost for words. Because I was gonna hit you with another question.
You may as well. We're already here.
All right, look. All right, so you know we're on that subject of the possession thing, right? So let's bring it into like the judicial system thing, right?
My favorite.
So, you know, I feel like, you know, the whole system is a part of the given. I feel like the system is basically the part of the breaking down of the family.
Court system is a part of the pipeline.
Right. So now when you add that with, um, you know, the one side getting everything, and with that one side getting everything, then the other side pays for it and you know gets all of the jail time and doesn't get to see their child. They're away from the child because they did something that they couldn't afford to do. And then, all right, now we're talking about possessions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now, do you feel that not only did that parent makes the child's possession, but also the court system?
Absolutely.
Now, with that, to lead to my next question, do you think the court system implants, like with every law that they have, how does that make it seem to you that the court system basically brainwashes that parent?
The court system doesn't brainwash the parent. The court system already knows that if we're here, that there's already a piece that they can prey on.
So then it becomes a business.
Yes.
All
It's a
right.
problem that needs a solution. And the crazy thing is, and I've experienced this in my lifetime, you know who figures it out? The kid who winds up in prison with his father.
Whoa. I think I'm gonna end this here. Like, there's too many bars.
I've seen that.
Wow.
I've seen it. And it's those who will come out because their fathers would get out of jail for going to jail for child support. Now they've been to jail and in the system, so now they're unhireable. So they go out and commit a felony. Now their father's in prison. The kid thinks something different. Kid goes to prison, finds out why his father's in prison, and now they're doing 10 years together. Crazy, right?
Yeah. I'm lost. I'm lost for words.
But it's the bigger picture as to why I was so committed to your cause, because it's not just for what I do. It's not just about the kids and their trauma. It's not just about the mothers. It's this bigger scope of what happens when there isn't a fundamental foundation, which you men lead. And you're so broken isn't the right word, but it's the word I'm going to use. You guys are tired. You guys are so tired that you can't fill those roles. So I would rather be the person to help you guys fill that cup back up than to sit here and be the person who talks about you, to sit here and tell the next person how much you're not shit or how much to say what you used to be because you just can't get out of this spot. So it's more than just kids and fathers. We're talking about people here.
Gabby,
Yeah.
I appreciate you. Look, this is gonna be dope. I hope everybody tunes into our live. Let's talk about it every Sunday at 6:30. Because our conversations are gonna get better and better, and we're gonna be bringing on more people, and like that are in different fields, discussing like therapy and mental health, like, because this is huge, like across all boards. But from every bar that you've said in this podcast, I'm gonna take a clip out of each one and make it a thing. Like, this is gonna go viral. If it doesn't go viral, I don't know what's wrong. Like, but like, no, I really appreciate you coming and dropping those bars. Those are like things that I need to hear, and this is why I say like I like asking these questions to different questions to different people, because it gets deep.
Yeah.
And then it can touch someone out there that is watching this, that may be going through something of such or similar situation. So yeah, it was a pleasure.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I always appreciate you having me. I always felt honored to be a part of this project.
We have
and
great
I love watching you do it. I love watching you go through it fearlessly and unapologetically. Even though I know when you're just like, I don't know what I'm gonna do here, you still do it anyway.
I
I love
appreciate
it.
that. And I thank you for holding me accountable. Pick me up when I have fallen. And just always being there for me. Like, truly appreciate it.
I got you. We're gonna go and be great.
Guys, there you have it. This is DADAcation. I don't know what episode this is, but it's a great episode. And thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for the next one.